the morning, I wake up and I feel horrible. I've got an intense pain in my lower abdomen, and in a flash, I understand why. I've got my period. All taken by the drama, I completely forgot. What day is it? Am I late? Am I early? Who knows? I must get back in touch with reality, but right now I feel so sick and itching I cannot concentrate. I think I bled on the linen too. Sometimes it happens when I get very sick. Not often, but I guess all the stress and disruptions of my personal routine didn't play in my favor. While I'm trying to figure out how to handle the situation in between painful cramps, Harry is awake too. He caresses me lovingly, but when he sees my face, he falters. What's the matter? You are pale. I don't feel well. Anxious, he eases himself on his elbow. What's wrong? No, Harry, nothing bad, I say to reassure him, but I feel so shy in admitting the reason of my sickness. My God, like if I'm 13 years old or something. Only stomach cramps. Nothing serious. He frowns, and then, after a moment of consideration, asks, Have you got your period? I nod, feeling shyer by the minute, and for no reason at all, for heaven's sake. I think I dirtied the sheets, I mutter sheepishly while clenching my abdomen. He peers underneath. I'm afraid so, he says, grinning. I'm sorry, I say, contrite in a fit of deep shame. He chuckles. Nothing to be sorry for. Can you stand? I answer in the affirmative. I prepare you a hot bath. It'll make you feel better. I'll change the linen in the meanwhile. No, Harry, I stammer. Don't! I'll do it. He's already getting out of bed, only in his pants. If no even period crumbs save me from enjoying the sight, there is no hope. On wearing his t-shirt, he answers, Don't be silly, and he shouts out from the room. I crouch on myself in sufferance, but also very pleased. He's truly caring. After a few moments, he's back in the living room. The bath is ready. Have you got some pots? I don't know if there are any in the house. I see his expression clouded slightly. The house has been purged from any of Ginny's belongings, and he's reflecting on it. I don't want him to. I stammer quickly. Don't worry, I can use some toilet paper. Toilet paper? You are joking, I hope. There is a supermarket just around the corner. I'll pop in and buy some, he says, wearing a sweater and jeans. He's so lovely, I'm almost moved to tears. But when I see him grabbing his muggle wallet, I grow worried all of a sudden. Harry! I bellow before he leaves the room. He turns, inquiringly. Buy only the pots, all right? He looks puzzled. Why? Don't you want me to buy something for lunch since I'm there? I thought to get some eggs and bacon for breakfast too. I rather fancy a fry-up. He has such a look of ingenuity on his face that I perceive he's not lying. He forgot about wanting to buy drugs only the day before yesterday. Yes, okay, but buy some veggies too, I answer, debilitated. He smears and leaves the house. I drag myself with difficulty to the bathroom. He left me also some fluffy towels close to the bathtub. He's such a nice guy, and I'm so hopelessly in love that it's shameful. I would reproach myself if only I wouldn't be suffering the pain of hell. While I try to fight the discomfort in the warmth of water, I hear the front door open. He's back. It's followed by some rummaging of shopping bags and bustle around the house. After a while, he knocks at the door. I left in front of the door pots and some paracetamol. I wanted to get you a potion, but, I cannot go to Diagon Alley. I'd rather have preferred the potion, but the only one I had, I gave it to Harry for his headache. I don't like muggle medicine much. If you read the leaflet, there are so many side effects. It's scary. They seem more harmful than beneficial. But I'll take them. Beggars can't be choosers. I feel splitting in two. After half an hour, I'm back in bed, hoping the damned poisonous paracetamol is either going to take the pain away or to kill me. Harry brings me a cup of tea and sits on the edge of the bed while I'm sipping it. Thank you for the pot, I mumble. No problem. How did you know what to take? He snickers. It's always the same, innit? I frown, taken aback by this answer. He has no way to know, actually. This is not an information you usually share with your male best friends, more with your female best friends. In fact, I perfectly know what Ginny used. The brand he got me, as a matter of fact. I feel a creep rising on my back. Harry, I ask tentatively. Yes, he answers while caressing my head and smiling affectionately. Nothing. I decide cowardly not to bring up the subject for the moment. I don't want to destroy his smile. I decide to believe it's simply a lapsus. Do you mind if I do my workout here before to get breakfast? I give my consent, trying not to look too cheerful. Actually, I always rather enjoyed watching him do his workout. A small guilty pleasure I allowed myself time to time when we were still working together. In both our departments, keeping fit was essential, and in the ministry, there is a small gym employees can use. We went there together time to time, but only late in the evening or very early in the morning, when the ministry was almost empty. Otherwise, it wouldn't get any peace. Between men trying to ingratiate themselves and women who wanted to be noticed, he couldn't have a quiet moment. Poor man. With any other person, it would have been called persecution, but with him, it was considered normal and acceptable. Well, I don't know if it's the paracetamol or seeing his muscle working under the effort, but all of a sudden I feel definitely better. When he finishes and takes out his t-shirt to swipe away the sweat around his neck, I feel so well that I need to grasp the duvet to prevent myself from sprinting and attacking him in the manner of a lion on the antelope. Do you want some breakfast? He asks, throwing the t-shirt in a corner of the room. I shake my head. I don't trust myself using my voice. I'm afraid only an unintelligible squeal would come out. Mistaking it for lingering pain, he gets close and rests his chin on the bed, just few inches from my face. Poor thing, he says, brushing my cheek. His smelly smell invades me, making me dizzy. The lion in me is ready to jump. Don't worry, I'll take care of you, he says, kissing my forehead. This is rather nice. I think I'll pretend to be unwell a bit longer. The day passes pleasantly. I welcome all the small attention and kindness he pours over me. I let him spoil me, and I feel really loved, in a way. I stop to reflect on how bizarre the procedure on which character is formed. How is it possible that a person that has not received love for all his childhood, and very little while a teenager, a person mistreated by people and destiny, can develop a loving personality? How that happened? Sometimes I wonder if a different person could have defeated Voldemort. I believe not. Having a pure heart was essential to defeat evil. I wonder if Dumbledore had placed him to the Dursley with a scheme. Maybe Harry has so much to give just because he never received any. Perhaps Dumbledore had done it on purpose to develop this trait in his character. Because, let's be honest, I'm sure that giving a bit of thought, a better solution could have been found. Well, I sincerely hope not. I don't want to have to harbor rancor against Dumbledore. I know I should see the whole thing in a different perspective. It's one life against the hundreds they would have suffered if Voldemort wouldn't have been defeated. But still, I cannot. It seems a bit hard in his regard, like if his life was somehow less important. Anyway, I spent a very nice day on the wall, and I think he did it too. Only two things created me some disquiet. In the afternoon, he brought me some strawberries, accompanying them with the affirmation that they are my favorite, which is not true, and while we were talking and laughing about some silliness just before going to bed, he almost kissed me. On the lips, I mean. He has never done it up to now, not even once, not by mistake. I was about to auto-combust from the inside with anticipation, but as soon as he realized what she was about, fell dead and seemed very afraid for a moment. He forced a smile and caressed me, but plunged in a complete silence, turned back from me, going to sleep. Should I grow afraid? Should I mention it to Ted? The next day, I'm still a bit sore in my muscle, but nothing so debilitating. Harry is quite caring and seems to go above and beyond to please me. I wonder if Ginny felt her luck in having such a husband. I'm sure she did, despite she was often complaining about his messiness and carelessness. I anyway feel mine. Only during my pregnancies Ron, carried away by happiness, treated me in the same way. And I ask myself why he wasn't affectionate to me all the time. With the kids, he has always been very loving. He has never been stingy of kisses and hugs. Why then, it wasn't the same in my regards? We were so happy when we finally got together. I was so taken. After years at Hogwarts wishing for each other and never acknowledging it, this desire growing steadily and increasingly with every year, every month, every day, every minute spent together. It reached its zenith in that kiss the night of the Hogwarts battle, because I made a move, otherwise we could have waited forever. I just wanted him so much. I had already experienced making love at that age. Once you start, there is no stopping it. You have that desire burning under your skin all the time. Then the battle raged, and Fred died. Ron was devastated, the whole family was devastated. George was distraught, shocked. It was such a calamity in a family as united as theirs. Harry needed to recover, tired beyond their belief. Everybody was gathered in the Hufflepuff dormitory, with as far away as possible from them. They wouldn't leave Harry alone, and he needed to sleep. Me and Ron offered to guard his rest. The Gryffindor dormitory had been damaged but not destroyed. Their room was still intact. Harry, exhausted, nodded off as soon as he touched the bed, but we, although as exhausted as him, couldn't doze. We were lying in Ron's bed, and we were too close to feel the tiredness. Our desire too heightened. Years of waiting, and all of a sudden we couldn't wait a second longer. And with the only precaution of letting the four-poster bed's curtains down, we made love there, for the first time, only a few feet from Harry sleeping. Probably it hasn't been so nice of us, but we were so delirious by the victory and so happy to be alive. We were so in love. Ron didn't realize it wasn't the first time for me. Perhaps he never had a doubt about it. Perhaps he was a bit naive. Or perhaps only too excited, tired, grieving, and euphoric altogether to notice. I don't know, but it worked perfectly for me. I would have named Cram as the man if pinned down. I'm sure Ron would have been furious, but anyway better than the truth. When he found out years later, he went berserk. Scary, really, but not surprisingly. Ron, for all his life, felt second in importance in pretty much anything. And he just couldn't bear that even with me he had been second after Harry. Poor man. He's always been second with me after Harry. Today, the weather being acceptable, we had a walk in Cornwall. It was very soothing and relaxing. We walked hand in hand, sometimes in silence, observing the lovely scenery, sometimes chatting. He talked as if we were going to spend together our whole life somewhere else other than England. I obviously thought he was in jest. However, I grew uneasy when I asked, in the same playful tone, "What about the kids?" And he answered, a bit too seriously, "What kids?" I didn't know what to say, but thankfully, after a moment, seeing my expression, he wavered and added, "Oh yeah, the kids. They will come with us, of course." I decided to believe he was still in jest. When we are in bed chatting before to sleep, he scares me again, and this time I cannot pretend not to see there is a real problem. Out of the blue, he asks, "Why did we never marry?" My breath is taken away. In a normal situation, I would treat it like a joke, but after the last episodes, I am on the lookout and cannot carry on keeping my eyes closed on what I would prefer not to see. "Pardon?" I stammer. He repeats the question quite seriously. Too seriously. He's definitely not in jest. I decide to answer with a question to test the waters. "Why, do you think?" He laughs. "Because I'm a prat and I never realized how wonderful you are," he says, putting an arm around my neck. "But we are still on time to mend the mistake. You can marry me now." This kind of jokes used to be common by his side in the past, but now it's different, and I need to proceed slowly. He seems in a very strong form of denial, and I don't know how wise might be to undo it. "No, Harry, I can't. I'm already married, you know." He stares hard at me and blinks in surprise, but then he relaxes and sighs disappointed. "Oh, yeah, Ron, I forgot." "Forgot? It's almost 20 years I'm married to Ron, and up to 3 years ago he was his best mate. How can you forget something like that?" He takes a desolate expression, and I see him in deep consideration. "You should divorce him and marry me, so you won't need to go away," he mutters. "You won't go away, will you? You will marry me and stay here, will you?" he said, anxious. I gulp. Again I'm speechless. It's the time to take another step. "Harry, there is another reason why we never married." "What reason?" "You don't love me." "Of course I love you," he says, smirking and holding me even tighter. This sentence, in another context, wouldn't fail to give me a blush or at least some smugness, but right now it only gives me creeps. I free myself from his embrace gently. "No, Harry, you love me as you love a friend, but you are not in love with me as with a lover. There was another reason why you didn't marry me. Don't you remember?" He smiles and shakes his head, shrugging his shoulders. "Make an effort." I encourage him, getting rather agitated, panic getting hold of me steadily. "Are you sure you don't remember? A person, maybe?" I say the last sentence hesitantly, under my voice. "If I don't remember, it means it was important." "Oh, maybe it was too important. My God, his mind had entirely erased Ginny. That's why he has been so well lately. Perhaps it has started already way before yesterday. This is not healthy. This is really frightening, actually more frightening than an outburst of rage. I need to speak to Ted as soon as I may be. Is it wise to try to bring him back to reality? Shall I try?" With much hesitation, scared to discover the real extent of the issue, I pose him a very simple question. "Harry, how old are you?" He laughs, arching an eyebrow. "Why are you asking me that?" "Answer me." I press on stare. He shrugs his shoulders, then tries to embrace me again, but I stop him, keeping his forearm in my grasp far from me. What is the name of your kids? My kids? What kids? Still chuckling, he tries to free himself while my heart is pumping with terror. Harry, be quiet and listen to me. Does the name Albus means anything to you? Yup, it's our headmaster. Remember? He says, glaring at me like if I was a bit dumb. It doesn't escape me that he used the present and not the past. And James? Does the name James mean anything to you? His laugh gets a bit uneasy. He shrugs off my hands and folds his arms on his chest, slightly vexed. Hermione, drop it. He was my dad, of course he means something to me. And Lily? I ask with hesitation, finding difficult to keep asking questions that are unraveling something much more complicated and scarier than what I was prepared to handle. His smile vanishes. You know very well. She was my mom. Why are you doing this to me? But I cannot stop. I need to get to the bottom of it. Only your mom? Nobody else? Now he frowns, angry. Why are you asking me all these questions? Leave me alone. And Sunrise? Does it mean anything to you, the name City? He shakes his head distressed, his brows knitting together. I said leave me alone, he murmurs darkly. Now I want to sleep, he says harsh. You are going to let me sleep. And I can detect a threat in his voice. He crouches under the duvet, covering almost completely his head. My courage fails, on the verge of asking the last question. A few moments later, the light is off, but my eyes are still wide open. And so they will stay, impossible to close them as I've always done before this moment. How could I be so stupid as not to realize this before? Now, with my eyes open in the darkness, I see all what I purposely decided not to see up to now. While I'm reflecting about the seriousness of a situation for which I haven't got the flimsiest of tools to handle it, a whisper comes to me. Hermione? Yes, Harry? I hear a rustling as he turns toward me. There is something I forgot, isn't it? I bite my lips unsure. I don't know how to behave or what to tell. Yes, Harry, I admit cautiously. A long pause ensued. More than one thing, perhaps. I sigh. It's not a question addressed to me, but a sentence addressed to himself. And it's something important, he continues. I spun toward him, and I look for his hand under the duvet. I squeeze it tightly. Hermione? Yes, I answer, trying not to let him perceive from my tone of voice the tears that are clouding my eyes. How old am I? I need to get a big breath and push them back before to be able to answer this question composedly, without choking on my words. 38. A long silence follows this affirmation, and when I think no answer will come, it arrives in a fearful whisper. Am I going insane? I leave his hand, and I encircle his limp body that let itself be held helplessly with my arms. No, you are not. I believe you are only protecting yourself. From what? Better not to let him find it out for the moment. Let him live peacefully and serenely in his denial a bit longer. Because when it will break, My God, I feel sick already. Sleep now. Don't think about it anymore, I say soothingly, caressing his head, and I keep him in a tight, reassuring hug until I feel his breathing getting heavier. Only then I slip carefully out of bed. I need to call Ted. It's quite late into the night. I know I would wake him up, but this is too important and must be done while Harry is asleep. I have to call his name loudly more than once before, much agitated, he appears in the room, eyes puffy for the abrupt awakening, wearing only a t-shirt and some pants, all white. It seems he is always wearing something white or other. I don't think I ever seen him wearing something bright colored or black. I wonder why. He's very skinny and lanky, and very often I can spot tongues in his face and lupin in his eyes. I'm very sorry they never got to know him. I'm sure they would have been proud of the man he's becoming. I'm very proud of him. I've always tried to give a proper direction to his education and way of thinking, and he always responded amazingly well. It almost feels like as if he is a son of mine, so much time he spent with me and Ron. He was a lovely child, sweet, quiet, and curious. Ron, like me, spent many hours to amuse him. I know he has an observing nature. He had always understood how our relationship was a hopeless one. But even in his adulthood, he never mentioned it. What's wrong? Shall I come there? He addressed me with furrowed tongue, much agitated. She! I left my wand in my room! He blurts out, still confused, patting his body as if looking for it. Don't worry, you don't need to come here. I reassure him. It's everything fine. I had to calm his fidgeting. But then, realizing how very little fine the whole situation is, I continue. Actually, it's not fine at all, but nothing that threatening. Wait a sec. He grasps a blanket from an armchair, wears it around his shoulders, and sits on the kitchen rug, legs crossed, ready to listen. I explain to him about what it clearly is, a case of serious memory loss. He rubs his face worriedly. Okay. Right. He only says going to the kitchen and putting himself a glass of water, and returning in front of the fire with it. So, didn't he seem to know how old is he? He asks, taking a gulp of water. Nor that he has got any kids. And overall, he doesn't remember about Ginny. His air is lightening by the minute, which tells me he is in deep meditation. Okay, he murmurs pensively. Okay, I want to see him. I need to talk to him. But before that, I want to know it all. You have to explain me everything that happened since you got there, in details. And I start to recount, trying to be as precise as possible. When I mention the sleeping potions, he frowns. I had my suspicions on that regard. How many do you think has he got? He asks, slipping in his heel and rolling a second. I don't know, 10? Maybe more? There were some empty vials scattered around. It is not the only altering substance he took. And I carry on explaining about alcohol and drugs. There, I need to give him a word picture of the nature of the muggle drug he used. Ted is not very prepared on it, and neither I am, to be truly honest. I know what it is and how it works because obviously I grew up between muggles, but I'm not an expert. I'm anyway able to give him a rough idea of what we are talking of, since he has no way to know even that little. Do you think has it got to do with it? I doubt it. I don't think it's caused only by one thing, but more probably from a mix of different factors. Sleeping potions mostly. So many in such a short time. No wonder he never answered to the door. He must have been asleep most of the time. And let's not forget, he endured many crusatus as well. Not even the healer has been able to discern how many. It's already a miracle his brain hasn't been reduced to a pulp. He mutters darkly. And then, out of the blue, when did you start to have sex with him? I blush furiously. Does it make any difference? I answer sheepishly. It might help me to understand, he explains undaunted, like if only asking when the last time is I got my vitamins. The day you came from his head. But he doesn't mention it, right? No, directly. No. Does he call you by your name? Does he know who you are? Yeah, I believe so, despite sometimes I'm afraid he makes some confusion. And I explain him about the last incidents. He takes a pensive demeanor and places the empty glass on the floor beside him. I'll come tomorrow for lunch, he adds assured in the end. Go to sleep. Tomorrow I'll talk to him and we will decide how to proceed. Don't worry, we will find a way to deal with it. I withdraw my head from the fire, asking myself which one is the adult between the two. It's 11:30. I didn't inform Harry about Ted coming. I didn't want to run the risk of him opposing to the scheme. We spent the morning out running and working out, and he is in a cheerful mood. But I'm not fooled by it anymore. It's not a case of recovery, but only a mind blank. He is sitting on the sofa next to me, while pretending to be absorbed by a book, while I feel my inside squirming as if a bundle of slithering snake. When a swish and a hoot inform me that Ted is here. I see Harry frowning, surprised by this unexpected visit, as he leaves the sofa to check who's there. I follow straight away, curious to see how the encounter will unravel. All right, Harry? Ted asked with a bright smile, brushing away some cinders from discolored jeans. I see Harry's brows knitting together as if wondering something. But when Ted, with a beam, stares fixedly into his eyes, he relaxes, approaching him friendly. Hey, Ted, nice to see you, he says, patting him on the shoulder. What brings you here? Just thought to pop in for a chat, he says brightly. I greet him with a kiss, which he responds warmly and sends me a shifty glaze I understand straight away. I'll leave you two to chat. Don't take it bad, Ted, but I'm reading a very interesting book and I'd like to keep it going, I say, all sweetly and flattering. Not at all, Ted answers with the same affected cheerfulness and lightness. I close the door on them, and I press my ear immediately against it. Shame I haven't got some extendable ears with me. Probably I would find them in the kids' room, but I don't want to lose not even a second of this conversation. Perhaps I should never stop, but this knowledge doesn't stop me. Harry is asking him, do you stay for lunch? We are having some chicken, I believe. But then he hesitates a second as if unsure. You don't eat meat though, don't you? Right, he says brightly. No problem, we can cook something else. Thank you. You know, I never told you. It's funny, I actually stopped eating meat when I found out my dad was a werewolf. I guess my childish mind wanted to prove I was not one. He chuckles while explaining that much. That surprised me greatly. It's the first time I hear him recounting it. So, then, since we are certain you have definitely not any werewolf's tendencies, you could start again. It's always such a pain in the arse when you come for dinner. That sniggers. I think I won't anyway. It kind of characterized me, don't you think? That might surely be, but it's still an hassle for Hermione. However, she never complained, so I guess she doesn't mind. The chill on my back is soaring steadily. Do you mean when I come here for dinner? Well, yeah, you are here quite often. Sometimes I feel a vegetarian too, as a matter of fact. A small pause follows, but it's so short Harry doesn't even notice the fleeting hesitation. It surely wouldn't hurt you, Ted continues blithely. So, how are you doing? Up to much lately? It's fine, just me and Hermione, nothing special. The usual. We are having walks time to time. I'm glad we decided to spend our holiday here instead of going somewhere else. It's relaxing. I see. Ted mumbles, and I can hear the hesitation growing marked. On the other side of the door, my fright is so enhanced I can barely breathe. What is he talking about? What holiday? Since you mention it, there was something I meant to ask you about Hermione. And just as my attention and morbid curiosity is reaching its zenith, I cannot hear anything else but a slow, steady buzz. The cheeky whippersnapper! Harry should never have taught him the Muffiato spell. It's 1 o'clock at night. I'm in front of the fireplace. After lunch, before to go, Ted told me he was about to call me at this hour. Harry is sleeping. Lunch has been okay. Ted had talked a lot and asked a lot. Harry talked less and answered to his questions, carefully planned, I believe, to understand the extent of the problem. And by the glances we shot occasionally to each other, I guess the extent of the problem is pretty clear to both of us. With a pop, Ted's head is in there, and I'm ready to receive my instruction. Hermione, this situation is serious and delicate, he says as a preamble. I don't know if you noticed, but I think he forgot all about Voldemort as well. Actually, I think he remembers very little in general. He lives in a kind of personal delusion. He's slowly creating a whole new confused parallel life that has nothing to do with reality. Yes, I had exactly the same feeling, and every passing day is getting worse. We must try to bring back his memory, but very cautiously by degrees, otherwise the shock might prove to be too great. So, these are my instructions. 1. Give him a routine. Every day waking up at the same hour, outdoor activities if possible. 2. Informing John of what's happening and ask him every day to pop in for a chat. Ted is going to do the same. 3. No mentioning Ginny or the kids for the moment. 4. Let's bring back his memory step by step talking. Okay, that's the gist of what he told me, and seems everything feasible and rational. But then he adds, he's very confused, and all this mixing with you is confusing him even more. He's slowly replacing you from a friend to a surrogate wife, and this must not happen. Therefore, stop having sex with him. You shouldn't share his bed, and you should start to leave him alone time to time. Go and have a walk. Go to the borough. Go to your parents. Anywhere. Start with small walk and lengthen them day after day. And this, I know, is known to be neither feasible nor easy. I tell him so. I explain him about his dread to sleep alone, how he begs me to sleep close to him, and how he's keeping asking me not to leave him. What I don't explain is that I know I won't be able to. I'm totally incapable to deny anything he asks me, and I'm helpless and weak anytime he looks for me. That I'm deliriously happy every single time, and at the same time I feel devastated by the fact that it has all been under either denial or delusion. Ted is now stern though. Hermione, what are you planning to do? This is not healthy. He has got sons and a daughter. He used to have a wife who is not you. What you are secretly nurturing is wrong and cannot be. You have a husband too, and kids, and you will have to return to them eventually. Are you in denial too? What can I say? He's right. But how can I refuse him knowing that Annie might be the last? This is never going to work. I called George, who obviously was quite awake, toying with some dangerous classified object or other. I don't know what. I turned a blind eye. I explained him Harry's situation. He was aghast. Holy shit! He exclaimed. Doesn't she remember Ginny like at all? No, not a glimmer of a memory. I don't talk about her either. We need to go slowly. Okay, I'll come tomorrow. This is really messed up. Silence from my part. Yes, this is really messed up. Silence from his part. Studious glare. You are not sleeping with him, are you? Oh, for God's sake, have I got written I'm sleeping with Harry Potter on my front? I decide that if I must stop to sleep in the same bed as him, I might as well do it now. But with such a heavy heart, I take that decision. I ought to make myself violence to go up the flight of stairs, thinking that I'm letting go of the only opportunity in my life to savor the joy of tenderness and sharing, and that it will never happen again once home. I return to Ron's coldness and lack of attention, to a loneliness of mind and spirit. When I lie in James' bed, I feel as forlorn as ever in my life. Never felt lonelier and more dejected knowing he's there, so close to me but so far, unreachable. It's the same as when Ginny was alive. I slept over here in the same bed with almost the same feelings. I knew he was there. I knew he was hugging Ginny. I knew they would kiss and perhaps make love, and it was torturing. Every time I felt shuddering. But I would accept when asked anyway, with a masochistic joy, contenting myself of the crumbles of everything I could get. The chats before going to bed. Ginny was always going much sooner than us. Seeing him in the morning, all sleepy, smiling at me. He who made me a coffee, and drinking it together, sharing the same newspaper, so close our arms were brushing. I've always been such a fool. Helpless fool. The worst pang of sufferance in my life, I had it because of him, like all the ephemeral and dim joys. And now I'm lying here. I don't know if I was suffering more then, knowing it was just a room away and I couldn't have him, or now that he's just downstairs and I could have him, but I must not. I feel so miserable I cannot hold back my tears, and I can barely keep myself from whimpering. I don't know how long I spent there trying unsuccessfully to stifle my sobbing. I only know that after a while, Harry's in the room, looking at me, crouched on myself. He doesn't say anything. He sleeps under the duvet close to me, in a bed that is barely big enough for one, and he holds me tightly. I really broke down then in painful sobs because I love him so much. It tears me apart because I love being in his arms, and it feels perfect, it feels right, and it's neither perfect nor right, and I don't want to return to Ron. I want to stay here in his arms forever. I want him never to wake up from his delusion so I can indulge in mine, and we can enjoy this perfect moment where I can love him and he's barely aware that he never really loved me. And he shushes me and kisses my head. He doesn't ask me the reason of my distress, and eventually, lulled by the warmth of his body, consoled by the gentleness of his caresses, I must have fallen asleep in his embrace, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm still there, all the sufferance of the night magically gone, as if never existed. Ted, you are asking the impossible from me. I want to drink from this cup until the last drop.